Tony D and Little Joan with a screenwriter's response on a screenwriter's rant, Adolescence. I've got a comment here. I'm going to read it and then I'm going to respond. Smash like and subscribe. Thank you for smash liking and subscribing. Thanks for checking out my books, The Pineys, books 1 through 16, available at Amazon.com. Don't forget, Kindle Unlimited is free. Book 17 dropping this week. Okay, I already did one take of this, so this is going to be faster. I think the first take was too long and boring. So, I can get to my points sooner this time. As always, do not bother the commenter. The commenter is entitled to their opinion. And I'm going to respond here. And you can take that for what it's worth. Okay, so what did I respond to? Well, first, I did a screenwriter's rant on Adolescence. As always, I watched the trailer. And I sort of break it down and analyze it and decide whether or not it's a movie worth watching or what the deal is it. And what I concluded is this is, somebody's version of toxic masculinity in the UK, and it's sort of beating you over the head with the message more than the story. All right, so that's what I concluded basically in that. You can watch the video yourself to see. Here is the response from this commenter. Anti-wokeism is equally cringe and pseudo-intellectual as wokeism. Now, that's the first sentence. So I'm going to break it down. I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'll do the breakdown as I go. There's no real flow to this, so you're not missing anything. But in that sentence, you really got to define your terms. But I will say this. Wokeism is way more cringe than anti-wokeism as it currently stands right now. That will change over the course of time. You can make that argument. It's not a very good argument right now. The woke idiots are way worse still. They're insane. They're hurting themselves as well as the people around them. The anti-woke guys haven't gotten to that point yet, but they will, because the vast majority of people aren't really anti-woke yet, but they're all rapidly jumping onto that train. So you can make that argument. Oh, here's my alarm going off. You can make that argument if you want, but we don't have enough time for that here. Next, he says, why is it woke to talk about toxic masculinity and the red pill manosphere subcultures on the internet that influence the egocentric, entitled, polarizing, and even dangerous behaviors in young people? Well, first off, you're being disingenuous. You're not talking about young people. You're talking about young men. I don't think there are a lot of women who watch the red pill manosphere videos and say, I got to start acting that way. And when you're talking about toxic masculinity, you're talking about men. Egocentric, entitled, polarizing, and even dangerous behaviors? Well, you just summarized what a lot of woke idiots on Reddit are doing. You got an entire website devoted to that on Reddit. Again, you got to really define your terms. Toxic masculinity is one of those terms. It's very nebulous. It's what they used to say back in the day, the satanic panic. What the Satan. You're into Satan. What does that mean? Oh, you listen to rock music. You play Dungeons and Dragons. Huh? It's the same thing with toxic masculinity. What does that mean? If I get into an argument with somebody, am I toxic because I'm a male? Maybe I'm just in an argument. Maybe it's because I'm arguing with a woman. And maybe I'm a misogynist, but maybe not. It's a very nebulous term. All these terms are. But the manosphere, the red pillars, to pretend like they have nothing to offer other than they're turning all our young men into monsters. It's simply not true. The red pill manosphere, I think, is a response to the feminization of men. And to deny that there has been a feminization of men in the West is to deny reality. I mean, there are articles about how men should pee sitting down to be more inclusive of trans people. There are articles about how man spreading is a problem on trains. Yeah, you should be crushing your balls, guys, on the train because God forbid you open your legs a little bit so your unit can breathe. Um, yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of insane feminizing things, and I've talked about in book publishing how the book publishers leaned into the female market and never came back. There's almost no books for men now. Men just don't read for pleasure anymore. It's a real problem in book publishing. It doesn't mean you have to abandon women. It just means you shouldn't abandon men. There are more women probably that read than men. Women have more time. And they like to read a lot of smut. That's their porn. But yeah, I mean, one does not necessarily exclude the next. So the red pillars have their function in society. And some of them are even noble. If you look at the guy, Coach Red Pill, who eventually went to the Ukraine to report on what was happening there, and then the Ukrainians killed him. He had relatives there. It was a shame. Yeah, I mean, I don't even think this movie is really aimed at that. This is a movie that's talking about the downstream effects of things that, yeah, it might have been the manosphere influencing him, but a lot of things would have influenced the guy to murder a fellow student. He's got to be mentally ill. 100% mentally ill. You don't murder someone just because you listen to a guy on the internet. Again, it's the same argument about listening to heavy metal music, listening to rap music, listening to playing violent video games. It's the same old argument. People don't suddenly snap because they listen too much of a certain thing that's bad for them. They snap because they're already mentally ill and then something just triggers them. They didn't get the help they needed. They're alone. They're in despair. They have nothing in their lives and they snap. That's why. Now, who's more likely to snap is the question. And when you have a movie like, it's called Adolescence. It's not called Frank Smith's Adolescence, which would be about a specific character, possibly a specific person that they're portraying. No, it's Adolescence. It's this broad title that's supposed to be representative of a broad problem. So you're not just talking about a kid in this movie, you're talking about all the young men. So when you have a kid in England and you portray him as the criminal and he's the only white kid in the movie, in the trailer at least, that's a real issue. Because your bigger message, the subtext then becomes, well, must be these white kids. Because this is the message coming out of a lot of movies from England. A lot of, well, this is a limited series, a lot of TV shows. And is that representative of what's happening in the UK today? No, I would argue, because you have to look at the crime statistics, especially the urban crime statistics around London. And you see, for instance, you've got these guys in knife gangs, and they do what's called drill rap. I think it's called drill rap. And I've seen a few videos. I haven't seen a white guy amongst them yet. Yeah, they're all black guys. They're all black guys, as near as I can tell. There might be a white guy in the mix somewhere down the road when it's more commercially viable as a music, but I'm not seeing any yet. Next, you got the migrants, and the black guys would be probably part of the migrant world. And if you look at the maps of London and England, you could see there are a ton of migrants in certain areas. They're just overloading areas. In fact, Paul Joseph Watson just did a video about a town in England. They're importing more immigrants that are in the town. So there's like, I think there were 700 people in the town, and they're bringing in like 2,000 immigrants to live at the army base nearby. That's a lot of immigrants. And to ignore that and say, well, that's not going to change the culture. They're just people. No, they've gotten a lot of crime problems now that they're doing that, and they haven't even imported all the immigrants yet. So to make this representative, you would have to make it a migrant, I would say. if it was going to be representative of this broad problem that you're trying to portray. Would the BBC, would the UK people who are in filmmaking currently do that? Oh, no, 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 no. They would all be called racist, right? Imagine if the main character in this was a Muslim kid and a Muslim dad, and they were black. What do you think the outcry would be then? Do you think the movie would even get made? No, it absolutely would not. They would never greenlight this movie. Not in a million years. Even if they were doing a specific guy, they wouldn't greenlight the movie. They've ignored grooming gangs for years in the UK. That's actual crime. Forget about movies. They ignore actual crime in the UK. Two-tier Starmer, it got that name for a reason. That Starmer is the prime minister now. When there was a riot at one of the big carnivals in the UK, and there was a lot of people who weren't white in the riot, the police came in and it was taken care of, but people got light sentences and it was treated as, well, that was unfortunate. And then a few months later, when a group of white people protested immigration, oh, they lowered the hammer down. And there was a bit of a riot, I think. But they dropped the hammer on those people. And a lot of those people are in jail, not just for being at the protest, but for posting Facebook posts supporting it. So there's a real problem in the UK. And if this is supposed to be representative of an average family, and I've read an article about the movie, and that's what the director said about the movie. Oh, it's supposed to be an average family. Then it's supposed to be in reality. And the reality is, it's probably not an average family in England anymore. Not in the urban areas. And, yeah, it's... Now, where did I end in the last sentence? Oh, just because this is a limited series, he says, is set in the UK doesn't mean it has to talk about all its social, political, and cultural problems, which are equally valid. No, they are not. Immigration is top tier, man. There's nothing bigger than the immigration problem in the UK. Nothing. I just told you, 700 people in the town, they brought in like 2,000 immigrants. That's a real problem. That is representative of the problems they're having in England. They should not be doing that. I'm not against immigration, but my God, you can't bring in that many people. They don't integrate. There have been all sorts of problems. There's already problems if you bring in a limited number of immigrants. There's always going to be criminals amongst them. Because, crime is generated by despair, because if you have no other, you feel you have no other options in life, you might just turn to crime because what the F. And once you've turned to crime, it's really hard to get out of that pattern. It gets very nasty very quickly. Now multiply that by the thousands and thousands of immigrants you've got coming to England who don't know the country, don't know the culture, don't know the language, can't get a job. Sure, you could put them on the dole all you want. Eventually, you're just going to break the bank, and then you're not going to have any money for them. What do you think they'll act like then? They're not going to be too happy. So, no, they're not equally valued. The cultural problems in England are not equally valid, comrade. They've got a problem with exporting clotted cream to the United States. I don't think that's an equally valid problem in England. You don't have an equally valid the grooming gang problems would be the second biggest problem, that the government is ignoring that crime essentially. So that's not an equally valid problem. That's the biggest crime in England right now, is besides the immigration, is the grooming gangs, which is being spurred by the immigration of a bunch of child diddlers who are escaping their home countries where they'll be murdered to Western countries where they can diddle all the children they want, and they'll get a slap on the wrist and sent on their way. And even if they're thrown in jail, they'll be treated nice because there's a lot of other people from their country in jail, and eventually they'll be released to do it again. And the country doesn't care because the goal is globalism. And this is very much a thing in Europe. They want to atomize the countries, obliterate their culture, and create essentially economic zones that they operate and can extract the most resources and money from. You will just be a worker on a farm somewhere, or not a farm in the UK. I don't know what they're going to build in the UK. So, continuing, the author chooses what he wants to talk about. Yeah, he did. He chose to do this because there would be no other way to get his miniseries greenlit, would be my argument. The people in England are, especially in entertainment, they're uber woke. I mean, they're pretty woke here in Hollywood, but they're uber woke in the UK. Uber woke. There ain't no way they're going to do a mini series about the problems of Islam integrating into the UK. Ain't no way. And that's a very real problem on the streets in the UK. And you could do a really good story about that. Will it ever happen? Not in a million years will it happen. Not until they get their own version of Trump and kick half the country out. Furthermore, we can only know if a movie, series, video game is more massaged than story. You spelled message wrong. I would take your comment more seriously if you had good spelling. More massaged than story if we actually watch it, not just the trailer. That's why, as much as I find it excruciating, I'm going to watch the new Snow White and Emilia Perez movies, even though their trailers and media presentations are showing a strong emphasis on more massage than story. You spelled massage twice. It's message. I think you know that, but I guess you were typing it with your thumbs on a phone. I don't know how anybody could watch the clip of Emilia Perez where the characters sing about a sex change operation, penis to vagina, and seriously say, oh yeah, that's a movie I should see. I mean, you're nuts. But to each his own. Enjoy. And then he finishes by saying, relax, man. Not judging a whole story by its cover is still a golden principle in storytelling. No, it's not. That's not a principle of storytelling at all. Storytelling is making the story. I think what you're talking about is judging things. You don't judge a book by its cover, is the saying you're trying to say. You can judge a movie by its trailer. That's the whole point of the trailer. It is to get people interested in the movie. If it's not getting people interested in the movie, then the trailer has failed. Okay, do you understand? And this trailer failed with me. And I discussed why. Because I think it's all message and no story. It's a message, first off, it's a story we've seen a million times. I mean, it's a murder. It's pretty obvious who committed the murder. And then it's just going to be drama like, oh, my son, my son. And then people standing around talking about, oh, how did this happen? How was it come to this? Oh, there were signs. Yeah, I just think this is all about the continuing problem in the UK and ignoring them. And as filmmakers, as storytellers, we should not ignore those problems if it's this kind of, I mean, if you ignore those problems, you are essentially making propaganda. You're essentially making propaganda. Because you are covering up the realistic attributes of the UK. The UK has a humongous problem with immigration. It's completely overrun the country and caused the problem. That is the problem. The problem is not the native population. Now, that doesn't mean the native population is perfect. That doesn't mean they can't commit crimes. They certainly can. But to ignore the very, very large problem that's literally infused in every level of the country, that does a huge disservice. And not only that, imagine you have a kid, one of the kids you described, who's dabbling in the manosphere. He's not quite sure if these red pillars, these toxic masculinity guys are legit, but he's thinking about it. And then he sees this movie, these Adolescence, and he goes, oh, maybe I'll watch this movie. The red pillars told me that they would portray me as a monster. I wonder if they'll do that in this movie. And then this, probably a white kid in England, watches a movie like Adolescence, where the only white kid in the movie is portrayed as a monster and a murderer. Does that jibe with reality in his world? Probably not. It probably confirms everything the manosphere has been telling them. Yes, you are under attack. Yes, they want to feminize you, demonize you. How's that work? Does that work well? Does the kid watch this movie and go, "Oh yeah, I am a monster"? No, he watches the movie and says, "Oh my God, the guys in the red pill channel are right." That's a problem with this movie. It doesn't comport to reality, and it portrays reality as it is presented. Right? And it's not. It's just not the reality of the UK, in my view. So you could be Mr. Oh, I'm very virtuous. I don't judge a book by its cover, everybody, says my commenter. I'm a good person. I'm going to go see Snow White and Amelia Perez. I don't know if you actually are. That feels like a joke, but let's say you are. I'm going to go see it, even though I saw the trailers in the clip, and they're horrendous, but the movie might be good. No. No, that's probably not true. So you can waste your time all you want. You can go see movies. This is the worst trailer I've ever seen. Well, I have to see the movie. Then what's the point of seeing a trailer? What's the point? If the trailer sucks and you go see the movie anyway, you just go see any movie. Then you have to see all the movies. You literally have to see all the movies. Every single movie that comes out. To be fair, are you not fair? Oh, to be virtuous, you have to see them all. Every single one. So give Hollywood all your money. That's the message the commenter has here. You must give Hollywood all the money and see all the things. Yeah, I don't have that kind of time. I have to be discerning. I have to pick and choose the things I watch, just like I pick and choose the things I like to eat, right? I don't see a package of obviously artificially flavored candy that's very bad for me and go, well, it might be healthy for me. Let me just try it. It would be unfair to look at the package and just judge it by that. I actually have to eat it and see how I feel. No, I can see by the packaging, by the ingredients on it, it's terrible for me and I shouldn't eat it. It's full of artificial flavors and whatnot. That's what it's like to look at a trailer. You're reading the label, the ingredients of the movie. So maybe try that. Maybe be a little more discerning with your culture. And that's it for me, Tony D, and Little Joan. I got to go do stuff. Check me out Saturday at Wren's Coffee Shop and Bookstore in Blackwood, New Jersey. 11 to 2 p.m. we're doing lunch with the Jersey Devil. And I'll be telling my stories. Hope to see you there. We'll see you in the next one.